everybody. Welcome to the Light Gate. We're coming to you live tonight from New Orleans in the beautiful state of Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM. We're also coming to you live with the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. We're going to have a really great show tonight. We have an awesome guest who we've been waiting to get on, and I'm excited about it, and so is Preston. So I'm going to turn it over to Preston now.
Thank you, Dolly. Yeah, I'm excited about our guest tonight. I've been following him for a while, and he's got a lot of books, some really interesting experiences, and a lot of really interesting information to share, and we will get right to him, I promise. But I do want to say hello to all of you, and thank you for joining us on what happens to be episode 47 of The Light Gate. I am your host, Preston Dennett, and my lovely co-host is experiencer Dolly Safran. And yeah, we're getting deep into it now, 47 episodes. So that's awesome. Not sure we're quite pros yet, Dolly, but we're working our way there bit by bit. I think we need, once we get 100 shows under our belt, then I think, okay, we can call ourselves at least experienced. But we're certainly having fun. And yes, thank you all so much for joining us. It's such a joy to see all of you here each and every week. We are truly honored that you join us. So I'll say a quick hi to some of you, but Dolly says you can't spend more than 5 minutes doing this. So she's the boss, and I am going to listen to her. At least I will try. I will try, as Bart Simpson says. Okay, Renee. Hello, Renee, and hello, Brian. Thanks for joining us. And of course, Hector Gonzalez and Fun Talks TV. Very nice for you to join us. And I've already forgot how to say hello in Polish.
Dzień dobry, jak się masz?
Dzień dobry, jak się masz? All right, let's see, who else do we have here? Rat Food. We are one. In one, that is all. Yes, we are. Hello, namaste of endless generosity. All my love and goodwill to you. You are truly appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Mary R., hello. Who else we got going on here? Pogo Joe. From Greensboro, North Carolina, Star Orchid 8, and Ruth Kleiber, and Rockstar. You are a rock star. John P. Adventures. Dear sweet Susan Alloway. Hi, Susan. Hope you're doing so wonderfully. I love you very much. Who else do we have here? Victor Hej. Not sure what that means. Hey. Hey. Okay, Kim King and Susan Lawrence and Jacques Dion. You guys are so awesome. Louise, hello. And Central Wisconsin. Hey baby, it's me. 1:11 a.m. in Scotland. I'm just in for my 39th birthday. Awesome. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Very cool. You're just a baby. I remember 49. I'm pushing towards 60. Not there yet. I'm not going to rush things. Hello, Howard, all the way from Vincennes, Indiana. Okay, you guys, I've got to get to the show. Dolly made me. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's so awesome to see all you guys. You're our friends, and it's for you that we do this show. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But let's get to our guest. And I'm so excited to be joined tonight by Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. And if you've been in this field for a while, you probably have heard his name and heard him on various podcasts and probably seen him on Ancient Aliens, because he's a pretty powerful and influential figure in this field. We're going to be discussing all kinds of things: UFOs, spiritual transformation, healing, religion, all kinds of stuff. But we are very happy to welcome Michael. He's originally from Baltimore, Maryland, but moved to New York City in 1980, living there for 27 years. and working as a professional actor. So interesting. Before moving to Asheville, North Carolina. He's an ordained interfaith minister and received his BA degree in letters from the College of New Rochelle, where he graduated cum laude. Congratulations. He received his master's in divinity degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York City, class of 2000, and has served as a board-certified staff chaplain at various hospitals in New York and in North Carolina. Oof, that's a big deal. Also, what do we have here? While serving various Unitarian Universalist congregations in New York, Michael was trained as an anti-racism trainer and has been recognized by President Clinton for his efforts. Wow. Longtime UFO contactee, his book, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, was in March of 2014 the number one, get that, number one on Amazon's bestseller list of UFO books. In fact, author Whitley Strieber called this book the best book ever written on the topic. That's just one of these books. He's got many other books, including A New World, If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. Also, God Consciousness, a 30-day meditation manual for God-centered thinking. The Metaphysics of Spiritual Healing and the Power of Affirmative Prayer. And his most recent book is Initiation, the Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer. Gosh, these sound like some very interesting things to talk about. And his latest book is Enlightenment, which is something I am definitely pursuing. And this is a collection of sermons on themes such as justice, religion, spirituality, race, and what it means to live the good life, which is something I think we should all be striving towards. Now, Michael, as I said, has been there and done that. He's been on Coast to Coast, George Noory's TV show, Beyond Belief on Gaia TV. And a little sneak peek there, I went there to do a little shooting with Dolly on Gaia. So you might be actually be seeing us. Can't promise because you just never know. But yeah, we had the great honor to visit them. Michael's other TV appearances, in part, include being a regular consultant on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens series, where I've seen him many times, as well as being featured in the UFO TV documentary, The Real 4400, and UFOs, The Hidden Evidence on the Travel Channel. He was also featured in Steven Spielberg's TV documentary, Abduction Diaries, for the Sci-Fi Channel. And Diaries, of course, was the precursor to Spielberg's really well-received HBO series, Taken. Michael serves as the minister for the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of this, oh no, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, Michael, Swanannoa Valley. I think I got that. Located in the beautiful mountains of western North Carolina. So a huge welcome for our very esteemed guest tonight, and I will just bring on his smiling face. There he is.
Hey, hey, everybody.
Hi, Michael.
Thanks for having me on. You did great. I should really cut that bio a little, but now I know.
No, you can't cut it. No, it's important.
It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we want everyone to know that you've got all these books out and where you've been and that you're working hard at this and doing the good work. And of course,
yes, like we all are. We're trying.
You should, yes.
Each of us plays a role, you know.
Exactly. Anyway, thanks for having me on, guys, and thank everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, I'm so excited, Michael, to talk to you because, you know, we've been friends for quite some time.
Oh, my God. For a long time.
We finally got this show, and I was talking to our producer, Michelle. I'm like, I need some ideas for guests. And she's like, well, you haven't had Michael on yet. I'm like, oh, Michael, of course.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta call Michelle, too. I sent her a text a while ago. I know she gets pretty busy.
Very.
Oh, yeah. She gets very busy.
She's one of the hardest working people in the biz, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For those who don't know, Michelle is our producer. Is that what you call her? No?
Yes, producer.
And she hosts her own show The Outer Realm on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. So check that out. I absolutely adore her. She's the kindest person and so
She
knowledgeable,
really is.
very
She
psychic,
really is.
so
Love her
helpful.
very much. Yep.
All right. Well, got so much to talk about, Michael. I interviewed you about some of your healing events and some of your ET encounters. So I definitely want to get into that. But as everyone who watches this show knows, and as I warned you before we started, because I'm not into blindsiding people. I've been blindsided before, and I didn't like it.
Well, you and I are friends, so it's not too much you can't really ask.
All right.
You can ask me anything, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So
yeah,
I will. Now you got me thinking.
No, you can ask. You can ask. Yeah.
But
we
yeah,
go way back. So
yeah, we do definitely
go way
years.
back. But you know.
So I'm just so interested in how people get involved in this field, and whenever I see an adult, I instantly imagine them as a little kid running around saying "Mommy, Daddy," and getting their face all dirty with ice cream and tripping and getting.
Oh my God! I do that. I do that now.
And because we're just little adults running around.
That's right.
And it just intrigues me, like how we all end. I never in a million years thought I'd be doing this.
Me either.
I'm sure Dolly feels the same way.
Who knows? Who knows these things?
So I'm very intrigued as to how it all began for you. Did you come into this world thinking about UFOs? Did you have early experiences?
Oh my God.
Were you a skeptic?
No.
How did this all roll out for you? What were you like as a little kid?
I was a mess. I was actually I was actually sick a lot as a kid because I had asthma, very, 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 very bad, and a lot of allergies and stuff. But no, Preston, I was raised in the Baptist tradition, and I swallowed that whole part of me. My parents were very religious, and as a kid, you want to please them, but I actually like going to church. I knew at a very young age, I didn't know the word for it, but I thought I was going to be a priest. And so the only things that were weird for me as a kid, but they weren't weird until I was adult looking back, is that I would see colors around people.
Yeah.
I would see colors around people.
Yep.
And I just thought everybody did.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I used to see, now we would call them orbs, but I could be just sitting in my because I'm an introvert, believe it or not, at least according to the Myers-Briggs. And I love being alone. And I would spend a lot of time in my room. Plus, I was very sick as a child. And I would see these colors like they were circles, and they would just float. They looked like they were the colors of people's chakras now. They were violet and green and blue and purple, and they would float. They were like circles with a little hole in between, like not as big as a donut, but and I could see like the depth of my room, like you could see the empty space, the three-dimensionality of it. It was weird, but I didn't think it was weird because I had nothing to compare it to. When I I do still see people's auras. I give people aura readings, but what I do, and in the summertime, when people's skin are a little darker, they've been to the beach or they just have darker skin. If I stare at them long enough, I can see their skeleton.
Yeah,
wow. I can see their skeletal system. But again, who knew? So I used to wake up with blood on my pillow, and it just never dawned on me. I thought my ear was bleeding or something, because I didn't have blood on my nose or anything. And I just figured that out. But as I got older, people would say, oh, maybe you have an implant. And maybe I do, I don't know. But those were the things. But I was not, I just started watching Star Trek. Please do not laugh. maybe 6-7 years ago, and I started out with Deep Space Nine because I just did not have a head for science fiction. I started getting into this when I started having my experiences. Up till then, I would tell people I don't believe in UFO. I don't believe in all that.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And people would look at me like, "Wow," like even they couldn't believe it. But when I didn't read science fiction, anything. But I'm glad I didn't, because some of the things, I'm sure you guys relate as experiencers, some of the things that have happened, people will say, "Oh, you saw that on Star Trek. You saw that on TV." But no, I never watched it. So that was it. I was a very shy kid, believe it or not. I loved reading, which I do now. I love it. I've spent a lot of money on books. And, I like my alone time. Now I do watch, I read a little more science fiction. But that was, in a nutshell, my a truncated version of my childhood. Hi, Mr. Bullington. Hi, everybody.
All right. Well, I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into the whole aura thing. Did you tell anyone at any point?
No, I didn't tell anybody until I was an adult, because then I knew that, when I started having my first experience, outside of what I just told you, I mean, a sure bona fide experience when a being was in my room, I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. Then I started telling people, because I was studying the occult. Well, I don't like that word. I was studying metaphysics. I was I was leaving the Baptist tradition. It didn't work for me anymore. So I started reading existential philosophy, started reading tarot cards. So then I could, because I was around a supportive crowd. That's not weird. I see it too, that kind of thing.
What age were you when you had your first experience?
Well, I'm 67 now, so 1989.
Wow.
December 28th, 1989. Because I'm not counting what I just told you, because I didn't know they were experiences, because I had nothing to compare them to.
You were 27. Wow.
I was just a young lad. And so I had a reading. And, when I started going to psychics, and they would tell me, "Oh, I pick up you having experiences since you were 7 or 8 years old." That may be true, but I don't remember those. So I'm not going to count those.
Okay.
All right. Kelly says she's familiar with your work.
No, she's not familiar. Hey, Kelly.
Oh, and she says, "Oh, my word, I wake up with blood on my pillows. I've never given it a thought." It's funny how these things can just slide right by you when you're not, thinking.
Well, it's interesting. One of my favorite philosophers is Søren Kierkegaard. And
you froze, Michael.
He was brilliant. And so looking back, I can say maybe it was an implant. I don't know, but it was just weird for me to be waking up with blood on my pillow at certain times when I was a kid. I mean, I was really young, probably about 8 or 9.
Well,
but yeah.
Well, so were you having any other things like, fear of intruders or insomnia or weird dreams or, all the things that...
Preston, I as a kid, I cannot say that I had. I was really, really not that, maybe one influences the other. No, I just didn't. If I did, I don't remember them. I was very into going to church. That was my social life. And I think that I, probably from a past life, because in one of my experiences, a gray person showed me a past life, and it was as a Catholic.
Oh wow!
Priest.
We're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah, and showed me a future event. So, but it spoke to me because I've always been very comfortable in churches. Now I know religion, unhealthy religion, can screw you up, and so. But I knew I was comfortable, whether it was in a Baptist church, whether it was in a Jewish temple, whether it was in a mosque. I had a comfortability.
Right.
And as I said, as a kid, I wanted to be. I said, I'm going to be a priest.
Wow,
Wow.
that's amazing.
Well, I'm gonna just pop up this picture that I pulled from, because it goes
Yeah,
to
there
speak
they are.
about how all
Yeah,
the different religions are basically
yeah,
giving the same message.
yeah,
So,
yeah. We need some female energy in these pictures next time, but you get the drift. Yeah, you get the drift.
all right. So as a young kid, here, wait, let me pull this down. You're having these aura
Yeah.
experiences. Were you having like any out of body experiences or dreams that come true or ghost sightings or?
When I got older, I don't know. At times when I gave people aura readings, because I read the tarot cards and stuff, I could see like the outline of a human being next to them. And so I would describe who I was seeing to my client. And I would say, do you have a grandmother? This looks like a woman and grandmother. And they would say, oh yeah, that is my grandmother. So that kind of thing. But that wasn't until I was an adult.
Wow.
That wasn't until I was an adult. I'm very intuitive, and that was heightened after my experiences. But even as a child, very sensitive. I could read people's emotions, people I didn't know, and it was just I was very sensitive to other people's energies. That's the best way for me to put it, which I am more so now. But those were things that, nothing out of the ordinary, except looking back, connecting the dots to now. But no, that was pretty much it. I like I said, I love to read. I loved religion. I did pray. I was athletic as a child. I played football in high school. Played basketball in my neighborhood. My favorite exercise is to swim. I'm an avid swimmer. Yeah. And but as I got older, as I said, as I was leaving the Baptist church, their rendition of Jesus didn't work for me. Their rendition of love, because I knew people who were atheists, I knew people who were gay, I knew people who were everything the church say you shouldn't be, and they were lovely. And it was hard for me to reconcile the dogma of the church and this God, I'm using that word with all the baggage that comes with it, that a loving God would barbecue someone for
Yeah.
eternity.
Exactly.
Well, it takes a lot of courage to be able to confront that.
Is it possible that your religious background it's one thing to be psychic naturally. I grew up psychic naturally. I had abilities, everything, but I didn't have anything holding me in place or experiencing what I was capable of doing. I had an open door to it. Do you think maybe that all of that philosophy, the Baptist philosophy, maybe in your family dynamic, just kept you from opening up to it? And then when you started opening the esoteric and the metaphysical, that your abilities said, hey, we're here, and jumped in and let you have it,
I definitely think that was part of it, because I was free.
Right.
I was freer. And so I could, because I was doing things, and especially after the first couple contact experiences, but I had to keep that quiet.
Yeah.
But I also thought that I was losing my mind at the same time. Luckily, the late Bud Hopkins, he and I were friends in New York, and he regressed me. The first person who regressed me was the late Dr. Gene Mundy. And so I got a handle on stuff. And I was already going to therapy for some dysfunctional family stuff that I was trying to get free of. And I mentioned it to my therapist. And he was a student of A Course in Miracles, but I was fortunate. I also was in a support group, which was an interesting way to find one. So I started, because they were coming fast and furious. I mean, I was having visitations twice a month, every full and new moon, for almost a year, and then I started seeing different beings, and I was having a problem kind of holding on. Mentally, and going about my day, and losing sleep and all that. So, we stand on the shoulders of so many people, and some of the people who helped me out, I don't even know if they're still alive or where they are now. but I think about them that they helped me get through a really rough time. I was also fortunate enough that in my romantic relationships that my partners did not go, "What are you, some kind of a nut?" Because, sometimes that can get in the way. So, I had my struggles, but things worked out.
You hooked up with Jean Mundy. She's a real pioneer. Really
Oh,
respected.
man.
I mean, she's
Yeah.
one of the early people who are doing this. And Bud Hopkins, I met him a couple of times, and such a nice guy. I mean,
Bud
he
was
so
a doll.
busy. He took the time to speak with me.
Yeah.
Really an amazing guy. So I'd love to dive into some of your UFO experiences.
And Bud and I, John Mack, Bud, when I went to my support group in New York City, it was like two different camps. And then David Jacobs got on the scene. But there was the John Mack camp that, even though there's some trauma involved, that there was spiritual growth there. There was transformation there. I was more on that side. When I met Bud had his support group, and both our support groups would get together like once or twice a year. But that group, people were traumatized. They had had sperm and ovum taken. There were anal probes. There were rectal probes. I mean, they went through it. And so at that point, Bud was trying to say to at least, "Michael, what do you mean there's good in this? What are you talking about? These people," and he mellowed out. He didn't come all the way around, but who does? But he mellowed out because I was trying to say yes. Because even to this day, I have a hard time. I still have post-traumatic stress. I have a hard time being in this house alone. Even when I had a small apartment before getting married again, like when my wife goes away or if my daughter's not here on the weekend, I will turn the lights off at the last minute before I go to sleep. I keep my blinds closed as if that's going to stop me. But it's because at the beginning, for me at least, they would come and it would be so sudden, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I was so scared at times, and so I still have a little bit of that. Not that I'm so much afraid of them, but it's just the rapidity of which I can just turn my head and bam. One of them is there.
Understandable,
and they look, I mean, these are the people that I've seen. I've seen the praying mantis people. Imagine opening your eyes and having this person there like that. I've seen the reptilian.
Oh, wow.
I've seen,
you make that? Look at that. Put the reptilian back up. Seriously. Well, that's a really good representation of them. That's basically what they look like.
I have a friend who makes these for me. And the person that I called, when I called Preston back in 2013, he had a hoodie, a cowl on, but this is the person that healed my blood clot on July 4th, 2013. And that's when I called Preston, but he wasn't home. And I remember because
what year?
You were living in LA. It was July 4th, 2013. I called Preston at 10 minutes to 7 his time, which was 9:50.
Did he tell you his name?
Did this being? No. He healed the blood clot that I had, which was good enough for me.
Okay.
Well, I want to get into all of that, but before I do, I'm curious. You chose acting as a career, which is such a bold choice. How did that come about?
Well, I went to college. I didn't go right to college. I'm State University, and then I thought, but I got my master's, my BA cum laude in New York City at College of New Rochelle. A couple people said I was talented. In my, I took an acting class as an elective, and I joined a community theater, and it's like the guy, it was a musical called The Amorous Flea. It was based on Moliere's School for Wives, and we were all dressed like George Washington with the powdered wigs and all that. And the lead guy was named Keith, and Keith got sick.
Oh, wow.
And I was Keith's understudy.
Oh, wow.
And I went on, and they stood up and clapped. And that inner child in me, and plus my ego, said, boy, they love me. And I love this. I think I'm going to pursue this. And I started doing all these shows.
Wow.
And then I decided to move to New York because I had some family there, so I wouldn't have to start from scratch. And I wound up doing some musicals, some off-Broadway stuff, some commercials. I get a small pension. Did a lot of soap opera work. All My Children,
Really?
Guiding
Wow.
Light, yeah. And so, but I loved it. And I was a party guy, you know, I got to go to Europe and with a show and all that. But, you know, and I mean this in a good spirit, acting is a very self-absorbed profession. And some of that is needed. You got to get your pictures. You got to take your acting classes because it's a business. You got to get an agent. You know, it's me, 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 me. And I enjoyed that. But, you know, when the show is over, you're always looking for work. It's the only one see that. You know, you just see the Oscars and you see people on Broadway. But most of these people are not working. And my friends were more excited when I got a job than I was. And I said to myself, do I want to be doing this the rest of my life? You know, one job closes, I'm looking for another one. And the answer was no. So I wanted to serve. I wanted to do something where I was helping people. And as an actor, not unless you're making a lot of money, you're just trying to keep your own head above water. Plus, I was married at that time. So I decided to go to seminary. I decided to finish up my BA, which I did. And I went to one of the top seminaries in the country. I went to Union Theological Seminary for my master's. And so instead of being in the business of creating illusions, I began to be in the business of dispelling them. And so I felt that I was helping people, working as a chaplain, working as a healer. And I'm very happy with my life. I don't miss it. Sometimes I watch TV and I see people who are in my acting class together, or we did a show together 100 years ago, and I'm happy for them. But I'm glad because you're really spending because even big stars have to audition.
Yep.
And so I just said, I don't want to be doing that the rest of my life, trying to prove myself. And so
I'm glad to hear that because, you know, you got to follow your excitement.
Right.
And as
it was fun.
Having talked to so many contactees, many of them feel that way. Like, you know, I want to help the world. I need to do my part and help things along. And you fit that profile. In fact, you know, your healing case was one of the one that's really woke me up. I'm like, well, who's being healed and why? You know, here's Reverend Michael Carter. He's doing good work. And that's when I started to put things together. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people I'm interviewing are really working hard to help other people.
Well, this is like a ministry, what you're doing, because you're informing people, you're helping people to grow spiritually. I mean, I have a lot of friends who do podcasts. To me, that's like a ministry, you know, and your congregation are the people who tune in and you're giving them information, you're empowering them. And that's what at least good ministry is. Kelly was asking me as a man of the cloth to talk about God. I think we're going to get into that. It's changed my whole perspective about what God is, you know, what that means. But I'm sure we're going to get into that.
I'm putting stars on all the questions so we can bring them up towards the second half of the show.
But so and these are wonderful questions, and but I'm happy with what I do. I have a lovely daughter. I have a beautiful wife, you know, inside and out. My daughter's getting ready to go to college.
Wow.
It's been a busy year thus far. I just did 2 episodes of Ancient Aliens, and I just did a show that hasn't come out yet. We shot in Roswell. I had never been to Roswell. This was last week. And so
Amazing.
the church is coming along. We're growing. We're reaching out in the community. So I'm a pretty lucky guy, and I'm always grateful. I say thank you every day.
I imagine. Yeah, we should always count our blessings.
Yes,
All
because
right.
it could all be otherwise.
So now I would love to just dive into your UFO experiences. You
Okay.
started to do it in your late 20s, you said. What was your first real experience where these guys popped up?
Yes, and this will get into the religion thing. On December 1989, I was in Mexico with my girlfriend, who later became my first wife. And we're still very close now, very close. She lives in New York. She's friends with my wife now and my family. We went to Cancun, and we had some time away from the beach. So we went to see the pyramids in Chichen Itza and Tulum on the Yucatan. Was not into UFOs again, but I was not into Orthodox religion anymore. I was moving away. I was going to a metaphysical church, science of mind, that kind of religious science, unity, those kinds of churches. And so we came back home that night. I mean, it was wonderful seeing those pyramids. It was like, whoa, what kind of civilization was this advanced? Where did they get all this information about astrology and astronomy? And anyway, came home, got off at JFK. She decided to stay home. I had been invited to a gathering in downtown in Hell's Kitchen. So I got on the subway and I went down to Times Square and walked over. That's the neighborhood they would call it. And I know, right? But it was it was a lot of actors there, but you have to be careful. So I went there and I wanted to show off. I mean, it was, first of all, it was 85, 89 degrees. It was freezing in New York. I wanted to gloat a little bit. I was very coppery. I didn't have my hair braided and dreadlocks then, but it was like blondish. It was, being out in that sun. And so I wanted to gloat a little bit. So I went and, we had deviled eggs. I've told this story before. I'm a deviled egg freak. No beverages, no adult beverages at all. And so after a couple hours, when I got home, Sandy was asleep, and she woke up, gave her a kiss, took off my clothes, got in the bed. I don't know what time. I'm sure it was early, and because I was home by like 1. And so I'm going to say maybe around between 3 and 4, because that's usually when I have my visits.
Right.
But the first time I didn't know, but I'm just guessing. But I don't know to this day whether I had to get up to go to the bathroom or whatever, but I sensed a presence in the room, and I usually sleep on my stomach. And when I turned around, this person was there at the foot of my bed. Now, I must be honest. I had my friend put a Buddha robe on him. I'm using the word him. Could have been a she, could have been an it. But he was chalk white like this. He had the phenotype of a gray, but he wasn't gray. And he had on a jumpsuit. It looked like what you wear in NASCAR, like a jumpsuit, but it was like Reynolds wrap. It looked like aluminum foil. He did have this protruding head. It was actually a little more like that. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Sandy could not wake up, did not wake up. And he was about 4 feet tall, if that. And around him was this lapis blue light, little bright, maybe cobalt blue. And around that was this big aura. My room was lit up like Times Square. And I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. And so I'm not a macho person. I've gotten the fetal position and I pulled the covers up over my head. When I did that, I heard, well, first of all, the temperature changed. I felt like I was outside. Now, I was living in the Excelsior Hotel. It was a residential hotel, still in New York. Columbus 81st between Columbus Avenue and Central Park West. So we're talking in the middle of, on the Upper West Side. It wasn't in a rural area like Betty or Barney Hill. I mean, this was in Manhattan. And I got cold and I felt this whoosh, and I finally grew a pair, and I pulled the covers down, and nobody was there. So, I didn't know. I was having some problems trying what was real and what wasn't. I talked to Sandy. Sandy calmed me down, said, "I'd never seen you so frightened." I told a friend of mine who was an astrologer. So she said, "I want you to go down to Alphabet City, and you walk." I got off the train and I walked. And she said, "When you get to the alphabet parts, you're going to see a mural. Tell me, you're going to see some faces. Tell me if those faces are recognizable." Well, whoever the artist was, they painted 3 pictures of grays there. And I said, "That's what I saw." And then they started coming every new moon and full moon, twice a month for 8 months. I wasn't sleeping. I was always on edge, but I did notice things. My intuition shot up. My skin, my hair and nails, physiologically, everything grew really, really fast. My nails and my hair. It was interesting because when people would see me, they would say, were you at the beach? Have you been out? Because I guess I was I was glowing a little bit. That's the best way I could put it. At that time, I wound up, I'm giving you the truncated version. I bought every book I could find about this. And I went to a place called, it was the Open Center. It was in Soho. And it was a bookstore, metaphysical bookstore. And I went in there and I bought all the books I could find on UFOs and religion. And I remember going to pay for the books. And there was a guy there. It was weird. He had dreadlocks before dreadlocks were in style, but he looked so weird. He was bald and the dreadlocks just came out of the side of his head. He was very strange looking. And I remember not looking at him. I had my books. I felt like I was buying a condom or something. I felt like a teenager. I felt so vulnerable. I couldn't look him in the face. And he said, "Is this a hobby or is this for real?" And he also told me, I'm not going to use the expletive, but he said, "Hey man, you look like blood." and then he said, "Is this for real?" And I said, "It's for real." And he rang all of them up. And he wrote down a name on a card and a phone number, and he gave it to me. And he said, "You need to call that number." And I called them, and it was a support group for experiencers.
Wow. Well, can we just hear what? Well, first, let me pop up this. I just want to say a big thank you to W. Decker. Thank you so much for this.
Oh my God!
Says, "I met Reverend Carter a couple of weeks ago in Roswell."
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, and it was good to meet you. Thank you.
So you had this first visitation. Did they say anything to you that you recall?
No, they did not say anything to me. But as they started to come, what they would do is they would paralyze me, and I would feel like electricity was going through my body. And sometimes I felt it just in certain parts of my body, like my throat. Because my voice has changed over the years. And I remember after seeing these people would say months later, "Oh my goodness, your voice sounds so soothing." And I was like, "Well, what?" It was just something had changed. One time they did show me, I was paralyzed. One time they showed me, they showed me a past life. as I was a monk with that bad haircut and the robe belt and that. And then they on that was on my left side, in my mind's eye, and on the right they showed me in a three-piece suit at a function that actually happened about 10 years later. The only time that they got me into Reiki, I'll tell you that story. The only time they hurt me was I was laying on my stomach, and I could tell they were in the room. And I tried to turn around, and I was frozen. I don't know whether that was for them or for me, and they stuck a needle in the back of my head, right where that little hollow is, where your neck and your skull meets. Somebody told me
Our internet's a little spotty
you get to
today.
the pituitary gland that way, but I don't know. I told my wife at the time about it, and I told my astrologer friend about it. She said, "Michael, I know you're gonna think this is stupid, but you got to set some boundary with these people. You got to talk to them. I know you say you don't see them, but believe me, I know they're around you. You've got to tell them that we've got to have some rules how to engage." And I thought she was a nut, but I did it. And I remember my girlfriend came home one day. She said, I didn't know what to think. You were yelling up at the ceiling in your underwear. She said, I thought you were losing your mind. And what I said to them was that you hurt me. And, I cursed, and I said, this has got to stop. So about a week later, they came. And I couldn't move once again. And they showed me a picture of a syringe. And I felt it's like when someone takes your blood and they do it so flawlessly, you don't even feel it. Well, I felt a little pinprick right here in my crown chakra, very, very subtle. I took that, and then it was over. I took that as their way of saying, we're sorry, we got to do this, but they made it not hurt. Now, it could have nothing to do with me, but they didn't say we're not going to do it, but they did it. And then these guys came in twice, walked right through my wall, same place, and it was a he, because he didn't speak, but his voice said, it was his mouth, it was telepathy, and he said, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." Well, that's easy for him to say. Someone looks like that, and they walk into your room. He was very big. He had a tail. He had a wife beater on. That it was like a tank top, and he was scaly and a grayish green, beautiful eyes now, but they had how the split, the pupils are, this is horizontal, perpendicular.
Right.
They went like a cat. They went that way instead of that way.
Wow.
Yeah, very few animals have the line across. Goats are like that. Goats have the line this way, not this way. And there's a couple other animals that are sort of like that. Yeah. Some rabbits even have weird lines across their eye like that.
Yeah.
So all of this is going on. Are you thinking, well, these are ETs and no?
Oh, definitely they're ETs. But what's happening to me is a couple of things. I think in religious, spiritual terms. I'm not into back engineering and that kind of thing. That greater minds than me. I mean, it's needed, but I don't think along those technical lines. I was thinking, what does this mean spiritually? If these people came and visited me December 28, 1989, CE, that means they must have been here in December 28, 1989, BCE. So I started getting into religion in the Bible. And Dr. Barry Downing, who's a friend and colleague, I read his book, UFO, the Flying Saucers in the Bible. I read Morris K. Jessup's book. He died under mysterious circumstances in the 50s. So there were other people, C.L. Turnage, a woman, I met her on, we would talk on the phone. She lived in Texas. and she was a Zachariah Sitchin kind of disciple. And I met Zachariah Sitchin in New York. I had lunch with him, and so she was there. But she was very into the Bible. So that's where I was going. The transformation that I was receiving was just that, and this is the best way I can put it. I just felt, I felt more intelligent. Now I guess the word they use is download, but I just felt more intelligent. I just felt, and I felt my heart open. I felt so much more loving. Now I want to be clear when I say that. It wasn't like they made me that way. I'm sure the experience helped, but I was leaving, I was going through my own. A caterpillar was becoming a butterfly. I was leaving Orthodox religion and I was coming into more spirituality. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they aren't. And so it was easier for me to be vulnerable, to cry, to say I love you, to say I don't know, to say, hey, I'm scared. I felt more like the armor that I wore, I was dropping it. And again, I had a meditation practice before they came. I was reading and studying and spending time in nature. So I was changing. And then
I'm so glad you're bringing all this up, because this is what often gets overlooked in the nuts and bolts folks who are like, it's all about being physically.
Thank you, Preston. Yes.
But it's not. And you're ticking these boxes, like being more mental acuity. You're spiritually awakening. You're physically being healed.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about your nails and your hair growing faster. This is something I've heard from many other people, and you're glowing. So
yeah.
affecting you on multiple levels: physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah. And see that, and I think that that's what this is about. I mean, yes, the narrative we have now, it's very military and it's militaristic. It's about national security. We don't want China to have it. They probably have the tech too. It's all that. The narrative is very tech oriented, very weapons oriented, but it's the consciousness. It's the change in consciousness. But looking at the Bible very differently.
Michael, flip your mouse every now and then. Just jiggle it a little bit.
Okay.
For some reason that helps with buffering. Okay. Because you're pausing, you're freezing up, and we're missing stuff. So every now and then, touch your mouse. Okay.
All right. So you heard so far what I was saying.
You said about conscious. Here, let me just give a shout out to Aussie Jen. Thank you for the super sticker. You guys are amazing.
So I just started, reading not just the Bible, but other sacred texts, listening to the oral narratives of other cultures, Native American, Japanese, the Nordic culture, and they all tell the same story. And so I just figured that once you say I live in a populated universe, once you admit to that, then your whole concept of God or the source, it has to change.
Right.
It has to. It can no longer be the Santa Claus God who rewards you when you're naughty or nice. It can't. Now, that works for some people, so I don't want to be disrespectful with that. It just didn't work for me anymore. And so I started broadening my horizons, reading about other cultures, quantum physics, as much as I could grasp of that. And so I just started reading. And once you read the Bible, looking at these beings being in the Bible, once you read the Mesopotamian text and the Sumerian text, you cannot go back to the old way.
Right.
It's just impossible.
Did you start asking them questions when you were with them? I mean, every time you had a burning question you needed an answer, did you ever vocalize it to them?
Dolly, I know, because I was just so scared initially that I didn't have to answer. I didn't. But all the questions I needed, I got answers because my life changed.
Okay. All right.
Oh. All right. Well, we need to take a quick station ID break, so hold on there for just a second. I'll pop up the banner so everyone can see who our guest is tonight. But yes, thank you all for joining us on The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. Our guest tonight is Reverend J.S. Carter. We've been talking about his early life and seeing auras and having all kinds of really interesting experiences all the way up to pretty much the present day with ET visitations of grays and all kinds of things. Still got a lot more to talk about. I want to hear about his healing experience, and we're going to get into his books too, and we're going to pop up your questions shortly. But I do want you all to know that we are streaming live on the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. Also, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are streaming on YouTube and on Facebook and on Roku. We are so excited to have Michael joining us tonight. Gosh, I'm so intrigued, Michael, that they showed you a past life. A future event and all these things. It's like, wow, this is exactly the kind of stuff so many people have told me about. And you just don't hear it in a lot of other people's, accounts in some of these books that are very fear-based. So, it's so important that this gets out there because you're a living example of, exactly the kind of stories I'm hearing from people, which can be scary, but, growth, people are growing so much as a result of these interactions.
Yeah. What they taught me. Listen, Dolly and Preston, I know a lot of people said, man, I would have asked them all these questions, and maybe they would have, but it's easy to say. I know people,
I've been studying everybody, and I'm the only idiot who asks questions, literally. I'm not kidding you. And I think it's my upbringing. I swear.
No, I don't think that that's wrong. I think that if you have the presence of mind, I just did not.
Jiggle your mouse.
And so and calm you down. Well, they didn't do that with me. So I'm just like trying to wrap my mind around, you just walk through my wall. You're going to walk out. You just see it was fight or flight. So that's natural. That's where I was going. But as I said, my life changed for the better. And the thing is just that, that was the proof that the proof was in the pudding. And so that was all I needed. That was all I needed. They never forced anything on me. I was living a fast life, and I was living a fast life in New York. I was sexing and drugging, and I was in the theater. I was young and talented. I was a mess, and I did things that made me sick, and from drugs and all that. And they never said you shouldn't do that. But I knew if I wanted to live the life that I wanted to live, and this really changed, they really changed me. But they got me into Reiki. I had never heard of Reiki, and I was doing an anti-racism training up in Boston, and I remember I had a little room that all the trainers were in. I was by myself, and they visited me there. And I was paralyzed, and they showed me in my mind's eye. There was a little, like an icon that you would see on a computer. There was a gray person, like an emoji, and he was pointing, and as if to say, "Don't look at me." And this was in my mind's eye. I'm never asleep when this happens. And there was a pair of hands like this in prayer with a lightning bolt.
Wow.
And I used that logo on my business card. But that was them saying faith healing. Well, I'm not a very religious man. That's why I'm a Unitarian, because I can still be a minister, and I'm not very dogmatic. But they were saying, look at that. That's it. Now, I could have rejected that, but I started doing Reiki. And now I don't know what comes out of my hands now, but it's probably from them. But that was it. He said, look, it was pointing. There was a red. There were two brown hands like this, and there was a red lightning bolt in between. Nothing gets by me, so I started studying energy healing. And so, things like that. The right person came my way. The right book came my way. The right situation came my way. And of course, there were painful things too when I had to get divorced. I was growing in a different direction. My brother was murdered back in July 1995. So, he was in a robbery. They took his money and shot him anyway. So, life was still happening. It wasn't like I was living a charmed life because I was with these beings, but I learned about life. I learned about grief. I learned about suffering. I learned about joy. And so, so I was still, you have to live. I had a dream once. Now, I'm not going to do a Dr. King speech, but I had a dream. I'm moving my mouse around because you guys are.
I know. We also have an incoming CME right now, coronal hole on us. The energy field is messing things up too. So,
but we're moving. But right. I want to tell you this dream because I think people need to hear it. Okay. I had a dream. This was early on. And I used to miss them when they wouldn't come. I was scared, but at the same time, I'm like, well, did I do something wrong? When are you coming back? I've gone about 2-3 years without them showing up. So, and I still have to tell you about the praying mantis and the blonde brother who gave me. But anyway, so I'm in the car. I'm in the car. I'm in the ship, and it's a little gray. And he's riding. I'm in the back. It's like driving Miss Daisy. You know what I mean? And so he stops this ship, and he says, "You get up front." And I said, "No. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? What are you doing? No." He said, "We're not going anywhere. You get up front." And I did. And we went forward, and then the dream was over. So. This would happen. This is what happened. I don't know if any other experiencers do this. Some religious people do this, but the dream was, Michael, you're in charge of your life. We're not in charge of your life.
Correct.
But it's easy. Yeah, it's easy to say, well, if they want me to do this, or what do they want me to do? Whether it's but they were like, no, you still have choices to make. You drive your life. And of course, we were going forward. That's a good thing in a dream when you're traveling and you're going forward. But that was big for me because I was gradually living. I would go to a psychic friend of mine who told me about them. I never told him that. I lied to him. He said, I see these little people around you all the time. They look like they have to do with outer space stuff. They look like elves. Does that mean anything to you? No. I don't know what you're talking about. But I would go and I would say, so this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the UFO people, blah, blah, blah. He said, look, I can only talk about what comes up. But in a way, that was me turning my life over to them. And you can't do that. You can't turn your life over to anybody. That's right. But that was a big lesson for me. But, in that kind of faith tradition, everything, well, God wanted me to do this, and God wanted me to do that, and what about you?
That's right.
What maybe that's not it. Maybe, you have to make choices.
Right. One of the biggest lessons I learned from ET is that we come here to become wise. We come here to learn the hard lessons, and it's all about us attaining wisdom. It's the one thing we take with us when we leave, that and love. And we ascend when we do that. And people who come back over and over and over again are missing the point, and they're buying into things or becoming emotionally slave to something else, and they're not attending their purpose, their meaning for themselves and what they want to do. You wanted to be a priest right away. You had another life and it was still guiding you. Okay. And you went that way, but look where you are now. See, it's the journey. It's not always the beginning. It's the journey itself that takes us where we're going. And a lot of people don't think of that either. It's like every day is a new start to your journey and you keep going. And it's you, though. It's all of us. That's karma. That's how we live. It should be, you know?
Very cool.
Yep.
So let's hear about your praying mantis experience.
Okay, and then I want to get back to the experience that I
want to hear it.
When I
Okay.
tried to call you. Okay, I went to a. This was in 2019. I went to a and here he's a very handsome person.
It's kind of cute, isn't it?
He's a
Very.
cutie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did a conference in 2019 at Knoxville, and the usual suspects were there. Was Steve Bassett was there. I don't know if Stanton was still there, but you know, Kathleen Martin, who's a good friend, we were there, and it was the first time I ever got a standing ovation doing a conference. I had never.
Oh, wow.
It blew me away. And so I met all kinds of people, and I was, you know, selling books. And I met this lady there and her friend. He, you know, I don't know if it was her boyfriend or whatever. And so they would, hey, come buy his book, la da 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 da. And we stayed in contact. So about a week or two after the conference, I get a call, and she says, Michael, I have a friend who needs to talk to you. They say they have a message for you. They didn't see your talk. They did buy the DVD, the CD, but they have a very important message for you. And is it okay if I can give them your number, or they're right here if you have a minute? So I said, well, I'll talk to them. And she said, hi, I heard good things about you, yada, yada, yada. She said, I'm a lawyer. And I said, oh, okay. She said, but I'm also a psychic. And I said something stupid about, oh,
Psychic
that's
lawyer.
good. Well, yeah, that's good. You got both hemispheres of the brain. Yeah. Going. And I said, no. She said, I just feel them and see them around you. And she said, I think you're going to see one. And, you know, what are you going to say to that? So I said, well, thank you for your time. I'll look out. I said, what are you talking about? So she said, I'm serious. She said, in 3 days, Reverend Carter, I think you're going to see him in 3 days. So I said, okay. And
did you say a mantis specifically?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, hung up, went about my evening. The next day, I can't put my finger on it, but I said, it was just something weird about my apartment. And I said, well, maybe it's my brother. When my brother was shot, my brother used to smoke cigarettes a lot. And sometimes he would come around me and the apartment would smell like smoke. And I would say, okay, Kevin, I hope you're okay. I'm going to sleep. I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I knew he smoked cigarettes. So he was probably around. So that's day one. The second night, I noticed that when I get up to walk around the apartment, I feel that my hair is standing on end on my arms. And I said, you know what? Nah, this has got to be auto-suggestion. There's nobody in here. The third night, I was very tired. And usually I try to sit in the half lotus to meditate on my cushion there. But I was so lazy and tired that I said, I'm going to meditate just lying on my back. I closed my eyes. I felt my mattress, my bed sink, and this person was about what out of me. And then they just dissolved. The molecules just dissolved. As you probably know, a lot of experiences, after you have your experience, I know I have so much energy, I can't go to sleep. I can't do anything. I'm like revved up. So I called her and I said, please tell your friend, thank you very, very much, that she was very, very accurate. and I just saw my first praying mantis being in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing.
That was very strange. That was
That's
very
really
strange.
wild. Have you seen him since?
No.
No. Wow.
And how tall was it?
I don't know how tall it was, but it was laying
It
like
came in for
over
a look.
top of me on
Yeah.
my bed.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
felt the mattress sink, and
Yeah.
when I opened my eyes, this far from my face,
Wow.
you know, a little,
You
but
get any message?
not as
You get
no,
anything?
not no, no, no.
Wow.
Amazing.
Now I'll go to you, Preston.
Oh, good.
I'll
This is
go
the
to
one I've
this
been waiting
story.
for.
Okay. There's a little backstory. I had a lot of friends who fought in Vietnam. And when I was in New York, I worked for, occasionally I did shows with this theater company called Vetco. It was a Vietnam Veterans Ensemble theater company. At this part of my life, I don't know why, but I kept meeting vets. I kept meeting warriors, man, and they liked me. And I don't know what that connection was. And some of them would talk to me about their experiences. Some would not talk at all. And so I remember them telling me about sometimes they would be in their foxholes and it would be rain and everything else, and they would have to sleep, but there would be incoming and outgoing artillery. And they said, Michael, you just got used to it. And that's the backstory. July 4th, 2013, here in Asheville, North Carolina, there were thunderstorms, heavy thunderstorms. I don't like fireworks. My ex-wife and my daughter loved them. We had broken up. We were trying to get back together, so I was trying to be a good husband, and they loved fireworks. And so they would start at 9:30, but we had to get there at 7 o'clock to find parking. They don't start until dark, so you're sitting out there getting eaten up by mosquitoes. You're sitting so close to people. It was just a mess, but I did it year after year after year. But thank goodness the rain stopped it. The rain stopped it. They called it off. So I'm in my house and I'm trying to read. And then I said, maybe I'm just going to doze off. And it sounded like artillery. I said to myself, this must be what my friends, we were being shelled. So I turn around. Again, I don't know if I felt something, but I turn around and I sit up because this person is in my house, tall, because my ceilings were at least 11 feet high. This person had to be about 8 feet tall. Now, muscular, had bangs, and had a hoodie, but they're not hoodies, they're cowls, medieval, grayish, brown, had a rope belt. You could see his muscles through the cowl. I stood up and this is the crucial thing. I had a blood clot. 2013 was a rough year for me. I was getting divorced. I was getting fired from my job as a chaplain, and my dad had died. I know it sounds like a country western song. It was a rough year. And my right leg was swollen. It looked like LeBron James's leg. I wish I had legs that muscular. My legs are like an ostrich. And so I had a blood clot from my ankle on my right leg to the groin area. I was getting shots. They were sticking my fingers to look at the blood levels. I was injecting myself with something called a Nexaparin. It's a blood thinner. So all this is going on. When I sit up, this gentleman puts his hand out, his right hand, and an apple green light comes out. I watch as it hits me in my abdomen. I don't feel anything, but I watch it. I look up at him. He puts his hand, and then he disperses, like the brother, like the praying mantis person, just like the molecules just split. I look down at my leg, and the size is normal. It is normal. I call Preston. I'm hyped up. You know what I mean? I'm not tired anymore. Now I'm really hyped up. I call Preston at 10 minutes to 7 his time, 9:50 my time. So he's not home. It's in LA. He's out, wherever he's out, California. I call my ex and my daughter, and I tell them what happens. The next day I go show them, and they both do this at the same time. They healed your leg. I said, yeah. So what I do is, the difficult part of this is I have to go see the doctor.
Yeah.
Because I'm going every 10 days, and they want to see my blood levels and is it thinning out. And I'm not going to tell them the story I just told you. They medicate me and put me somewhere, and you never see me again. So they keep pressing me with these questions, and I kept saying, I don't know how this happened, but it happened. I believe in science, but I don't know. And I said to them finally, look, I don't know what happened, and you don't know what happened, but aren't you happy for me? Aren't you happy? I'm well. My blood clot is gone. And that kind of put them back for, they backed off. And they said, well, of course we're happy for you, Mr. Carter, of course. And your leg was swollen. And so anyway, we got through that. They took me off of the drug because I said, I don't want to take that anymore. And voila. And I finally did get in touch with Preston, and I told Preston the story, and he later put it in his book.
And you saw them again, right? They had a brief appearance where they...
About 2 days later, I was meditating on my sofa, and I saw them, only they looked like this. It was two. I don't know whether the other one was a woman. I closed my eyes to meditate, and they were there, and they blinked. And I opened my eyes. I remember going, what the? And I blinked again, and I closed my eyes, and they were still there. Wow. And then they faded. I just thanked them. I said, I just thank you. I just thank you for what you did. Thank you for healing me. Yeah.
Who did that statue for you?
A woman by the name of Carol McLeod. She is an experiencer. She's also an artist. She works a lot with crystals and whatever. And whenever I described to her what I saw.
Did you do his features did you describe his features exactly? I mean, is that who you saw?
Yeah. And then
this was July of 2013?
July 4th, 2013.
Wow. I'm going to admit something to you. I don't know if I should do it now or later. You decide. Do you want to hear it now, or should I tell you?
Because I'll forget. I'm not as right. I forget.
All right. I have a hybrid son, and I named him Huel. And that's my son. He is a healer, and he's about 8 feet tall. I am a hybrid. I'm part tall white, and I'm part tall gray. I'm all mixed up. And my daughter, he looks like my daughter. My daughter has the same exact nose, eyes. I mean, if you saw my daughter, you'd go, oh my God, there it is. At the same time this happened to you, first of all, my father died in 2013, early 2014, actually. And my brother had fallen down some stairs in Atlanta, and I was in Columbus. And he said, I need help right now. He was alone at that time. And I said, sure, I'm coming up. If he calls me, I go. And so I went up there to take care of him. And I was, until I was walking down his 45-degree angle driveway and slipped on the ice and the water. Well, not ice, but it was, it felt like ice going down it from the stuff on the driveway. And I tea kettled all the way down to the bottom, and I broke my elbow and tore myself up. I had a black eye. It was abraded. I was messed up. And I had to be taken to the hospital. by my brother who was injured because I mean, it was freaky. And he got me to the hospital and he left me there. And my ex-husband came to pick me up. And when he brought me back that night, I was afraid to take any pain medicine because my brother needed my help, right? And I was going to stay, alert. His injury was way worse than I was. And about 2:00 in the morning, I finally gave up. I said, "Oh, I can't take it anymore." It was a holiday; things were crazy, And I got one of those little pain pills they give you, and I was going to make my way to the kitchen to take it. And he met me at the landing of the staircase. I could see the white light all over the staircase, and I walked down in, and there he was, big as life. And it was the very first time I actually got to meet him as an adult. And it shocked me because I recognized the face. I knew the features. It's my familial family face. Okay, a lot more hybridizing going on, but yeah, that was blue eyes. Oh my God, blue-green eyes.
Yeah.
And I just was just like, oh my God. And he said, "I love you. I'm your son, and I'm here to help you." And he touched my arm, and he held my elbow up, and then all of a sudden the pain was gone. Okay. Now I was wearing a half cast because they wanted me to see a specialist because I really broke it. And he stayed with me for a while. We hung out. He came back later to check on me one more time before, I was completely checked out again and wanted to make sure I was okay with it. And when I got to the hospital to go for my checkup with the specialist, he did the x-rays and he said, "It's healed." Eyes. He was like, "Oh my God, it's healed." And I'm just smiling at him. And I said, "Well, I'm a fast healer. What can I say?" And he's like, No, this is not how it works. And he's looking at the x-rays of it broken. And then he's looking at that and he said, this is a 5-month healing right here. I'm looking at it. You've had to have had at least 5 months for this to do what it did. And I said, "I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah. What are you going to say?
These experiences leave a long line of baffled doctors.
Now, here's serendipity. You called Preston. I didn't even know Preston then at all. Understand? And I've been trying to explain how ETs knew who Preston the hell was. And I'm kind of starting to get a funny feeling about all this. Okay. I'm really shook up about it because, oh my God, Preston knew about you. They know about everybody in an area. And I was near you. You were in New York or were you in North Carolina?
Oh, I was in North Carolina when
I was near you in Atlanta as the crow flies. And he would have been doing that whole area. You know what I'm saying?
Small world.
Kind of freaking me out. I got to show you pictures of my daughter after this show. You're going to die when you see her. Okay. I mean, absolutely die. I mean, this is amazing to me. Oh my God. That's amazing.
Well, at some point I want to get to the questions I'm stacking up from the people in chat, but I do have one question for you, Michael, which I keep forgetting to ask. So I'm not going to let it escape by me. Which, most people who are contactees, it's generational. And I'm wondering, did you ever ask your parents or did you any indication of other people in your family having encounters?
Yeah, I asked my mom about it. From what she told me, my mom is a very fear-based person. She's very psychic, but she's afraid of it. And so from what she had shared with me, it sounded like she may have had some paranormal experiences, but she just never wanted to talk about it.
Oh.
But it is generational for sure.
Yeah, I never got to talk to my parents about it. My dad was absolutely repulsed by the subject, which to me is kind of a sign.
So was mine, my stepdad.
Yeah.
My mother as well. My mother hated it. She couldn't stand it. It made her upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you mind if we dive into some of the questions from chat?
That's fine.
All right. I love this part. And we've got about a half hour left, a little bit less. So I've got about 20 comments here. So we'll see if we can get to a good number of these. But here is one from Fun Talks TV who's asking, do you still see the colors around people?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. I do. As a matter of fact, I just incorporated into, like, for instance, I have someone coming tomorrow. She's coming for the energy work, but she's got some other stuff going on. So I don't do it all the time, but, there's some counseling and stuff involved. And so sometimes if I think a reading may kind of clarify some things, or sometimes I'll just take a look at the aura and see what I pick up there. But yeah, I definitely do see it.
Does it
And
give
I
you
am-
answers about to their state of health, as whether it's the color of the aura?
It definitely does. And sometimes I can see if they're really fatigued, or, sometimes there may be little spaces in the aura. But and sometimes they're feeling good, and they just say, "Look, can you tell me what's going on?" So yeah. A lot of times I'll see colors, like I'll see green around certain parts of their body where it tells me where there may be some healing that needed to be done. There are times, I remember one time I was giving some energy, and I kept getting a pain right here in my chest. And when I told this individual about that, they said, "Oh yeah, I just had a biopsy a couple of days ago." So sometimes I can pick up stuff like that. It's always in the
is it always around everybody all the time, or is this something like
I have to tune in, because you got to go on with your life. But usually I'll have them sit over here in this chair. Because the pictures are there, while I'm doing the energy work. I may see one side of, if I see like a lot of green around the arm, I'll say, are you having problems with that arm? Oh yeah, I have a rotator cuff thing, or yeah, I pulled a muscle here. So I get clues like that.
I've talked to so many contactees who've learned Reiki or do hands-on healing. Or one lady, Pat Brown, she was a telephone operator and she quit. She became a massage therapist and doing healings.
Yeah, that's what the book Initiation is about. It's about the transformation that happens. People could be working on Wall Street. All of a sudden they have an NDE, or they have a contact experience. And the next thing you know, I gave all that up. It just didn't fulfill me anymore. I'm a massage therapist downtown and so-and-so. Yeah, it's these transformations that occur, which again, I think is what this is all about.
Totally agree. All right, here's another question from Carla Mids. Have you seen any UFOs, Michael?
I have not seen any UFOs. The only UFOs I think I saw were when I was regressed by Bud and Gene. They told me I was on, and it came up during the regression. A few weeks ago, it was early in the morning, and I was driving to the airport, and I saw, it was no clouds in the sky, and I saw a silver, I don't know what it was, but it looked like it just appeared and then it disappeared. I don't know whether it went through a portal or whatever. I like to think that, but I'm still going to say I haven't. I like to be
so
sure
interesting.
about that. But I did see a craft of some kind just appear and went across the sky, and then it disappeared. And it was like, well, where did it disappear to? So.
It's interesting. Some people see him, some people don't.
What can I tell you? Someone asked visitations as a man of the cloth.
Yeah.
What does I feel?
Well, let's read the question for the people who are.
Okay, this is from Kelly. As a man of the cloth, what does Reverend Michael feel that these visitations mean as far as source is concerned, God, and why only some of us? So I'll answer the first part. The second part, I don't know. And I may not really know the first part. I think when I read the Bible and I read other sacred texts, there are beings that are malevolent, that they're more mischievous, maybe not have our best interest in mind. And there are some that do. And I think at one time I couldn't accept that. They were all sweetness and light and love, but that's not the way the world works, nor is it what we see in the Bible and other texts. So some of them may be bringing messages from a higher power, from a source, as you say, or God, and some of them are neutral. Some of them are just here to observe, and some of them are here for our resources, and they always have been. And so I'm not going to sit up here and say they all come from this, from this good place. The ones that I've encountered happen too. But I do think that they are clues as to how the universe works and what source is. And I think it's up to us to kind of explore that.
Exactly. It's up to everybody. Everybody's on their own journey, like we said earlier, and it's up to you to research it for yourself and to explore it. Open your mind, broaden your vision and your horizons, and go for it. Ask for the questions for yourself. Don't expect anybody to do it for you.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
And
I don't think Kelly was asking that, but I just put that in there. But if you ask me as a minister, I'm ordained, I'm seminary trained, do I think UFOs have something to do with our religions? Then I say yes.
Okay.
Unequivocally. But again, some of them are helpful, and some of them may not be as helpful as they could be. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. All right, here's another question from Carla Mids. Why so many differing descriptions of these aliens? That's what gets me, and maybe they can change how they appear to us.
Well, yes, definitely. There's literature that talks about that. But, the universe is teeming with life. And so look at all the different people. Look at all the different races. And so this is what we're talking about. And so we're not alone. And they're beings who don't need craft to get around. They're beings who don't need bodies. They're beings who look like grays, or some of the people that I've told you that I've been fortunate enough to come in contact with. And that's just what life is. It's diversity. And diversity doesn't mean divisiveness. It just means that the universe is teeming and creation is in all its splendor. And I dig it myself.
I do too. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's wonderous. Okay.
All right. Well, we're getting through these questions, but here's one from Kelly, which I think we already kind of touched on. She's talking about, it's my only sadness about my visits is that I'm single and had no partner to witness our experiences as well. But here is the second part that you kind of touched on, Michael, with a little bit of a shrug. But then again, are these visits just for specific people only? So have you ever wondered why you, Michael? Why some people, not others?
I have wondered. It's interesting. I was told by a psychic that I was chosen at birth because I made an agreement between lives.
I've heard that, yeah.
Now I don't know if that's true. It feels like it could be true, but I don't know if it's true. I also, and I'm sorry that you don't have anyone to share that with, and the game's not over yet. You may before it's over with.
Right.
I was at a conference a couple years ago where a woman was angry, like it was a competition. There was a panel, and I was on the panel, and she was angry. Well, I'm spiritual. I meditate. I do everything you do. See me, and I had to say, ma'am, it's not a competition.
No.
And you need to be careful what you ask for.
Exactly.
You need to be careful what you ask for. And some people think it's a competition. Some people think it makes you more spiritual. It doesn't. It can enhance it, what's already there. But I hope that you find somebody that you can share that with. And like I said, it's not over yet, but it's not a competition. And just keep that in mind. And live your life. Live your life to its fullest.
Right. The only person you're in competition with is yourself, period. And ET's message to the people on this planet in our universe is that we all have the same level playing ground upon us. We all have abilities. It's whether you accept it or not and want to use that or not, and then reach out. Some of us are born a little bit more awake than others, but like you said, there's a contract going on where you come here for specific reasons, and that's where your starting point. Everybody has a different starting point, but we all still have the same choice every day to wise up, use it and move forward with it, you know? And
I want to be clear though. I don't know if the contract is true, so I don't want to put that as gospel truth. I've heard it. It feels right.
yes,
But I can't say that that is true.
Well, I think we all come down with a certain,
Yeah.
things we want to accomplish in life. And
Yeah,
this life, I'm going to have this go on. And
Yeah.
next life, I'll have this going on. And
Yeah. So I just want to be clear with that. But the short answer is I don't know why some people have visits and some don't.
actually everybody does. Everybody's been contacted. That's my experience. I've been taught by them. They have
Many
contacted
companies have
every
told
human
me that,
being
yeah.
on this planet. Everyone. They know us all. Literally.
I think it's just not some people's, and it's not helpful to their life mission to have this be a big part of their life.
Right.
You know,
When you're dealing with people with intelligence that is wide open psychic, they hear everything. They hear every one of us. They know all of us. They listen to us. They are our progenitors. They intently listen to us. And like you said, it's like a network of beings that are here to help us, encourage us, step in when we need it at times, that sort of thing. And they're all in communion with one another. They all know what's going on. We're the ones who are clueless. And some people remember and some people don't. If you want to remember, you have to work at it. That's the only difference. So try every day, try.
Yeah, well, Bobby McBride says, you do know you can void your contract. Dolly's talked about that. If you're like at a point where you really don't want to deal with this right now, you don't want to work with ETs. I've talked to people who said, you know what, this has to end, and it did. Doesn't work for everybody, but it's definitely something you can do. Like
autonomy. You have the choice. You decide. So.
All right, some more questions are stacking up. I still have about 10, so I think we might get through it. We've got 15 minutes. I also want to touch on your books real quick, so let's get to these quickly if we can. Kelly is asking, can Reiki really be effective via online? Too many. You do your healings basically in person, right?
I do, I do distant healing, and all I need is a picture of the individual. If I don't have a picture, I just need their name, their birth date, and where they are. I wouldn't do it over online because of electromagnetic stuff with computers and stuff like that. But I can do it again if I have a picture or your name, your date of birth, and city and state.
Michael, can you remote view?
I have, but I don't do it at will.
Okay. I think maybe you are when you're doing Reiki, because that's a component of it from long distance, is you're actually remoting to that person. I don't know if you realize you're doing it or not.
I don't know, Dolly. I know that if I have a picture, I can send it,
Right.
and I don't need to remote view them if I have their name, and that's just the way I was trained. Maybe it's a different way, but if I have their name and date of birth and city and state, I just put my hands over the name and do the symbols, and it gets there.
Uh-huh.
All right. Here's another question from Nipakoku. Michael, what's the painting with the red circle? It's a fontaine?
No, it's Christine Dennett. It's Christine Dennett's picture. It's a picture of an extraterrestrial man. He's brown. He's got a bald head. There's a crystal in front of him. There's some writing on the floor. Yeah, Christine sold me that.
Wow.
And, now next to it is a medieval picture of a rendition of Jesus. It's like the Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, icon.
Yeah, and below that is a picture. It looks something like George Adamski off of a ship. They're waving. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
All right, here's a really good question from Botanical Brother. Greetings all. Has the Reverend Michael J. Carter ever experienced ETs that are Black African descent?
I have not experienced them, but I've heard of people who have. I have not.
They exist.
I've certainly heard of people, who have told me. I've heard all different, ages.
I know I've heard of people who have seen brown Palladians.
Yeah.
That they're not all
Absolutely.
blonde, blue-eyed. Yeah.
One guy told me
but
he
but
looked
I
Middle Eastern.
yeah, but
Said
I
he
have
looked
not, bro.
Mexican
It's
or
a great-
Mesoamerican.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Dolly, have you seen ETs of
Brown
Yes.
skin.
Yeah, we're a color palette, all of us, all the way across the universe. We come in all different sizes, shapes, colors. It doesn't matter what your genetics are. Ethnicity accumulates for three reasons: one, your environment; one, your heritage; and then the other one, what you choose to employ on yourself to make yourself look a certain way mentally. And yeah, everybody's a different color. Nobody's exactly the same of anything. Nobody, even in families. In my family, we're the rainbow. So it's like, hey. It's like that on the other side with ET.
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I
Okay, Fun Talks TV. Michael, did you ask for the healing? Any clues to why you were visited and healed?
No on the first part and no for the second. I didn't ask, and I have no idea why. I'm just very grateful.
I know why. I think I do. Because
Yeah.
I've looked for the pattern. I'm like, well, gosh, it's evenly divided between men and women, 50-50. What is that? It's occurring all over the world. It's been going back 100 years. It's got nothing to do with religion or politics or, education. But what I found is it's a person's profession, what they are doing with, because it's teachers, it's nurses, it's doctors, it's healers, it's social workers, it's people fighting for the environment, for animal rights, human rights.
It's people picking up garbage on the beach.
Yes.
On a regular basis,
It's people who are doing good. And this is what contactees have been told. We help those who are helping others.
Wow.
But I think.
Well, I'm just very grateful. And I'll never ever forget it. Ever.
Okay. Now, I think you already answered this. Kelly, did the mantis being communicate? Oh, this is a different case. All right. Never mind. Yes, the mantis being did communicate with the sailor. That's Kevin Cameron. That's from my book, Inside UFOs. Completely different case. Excuse me. Okay. What else? I think we're getting just about through most of them here. Here is one from Kayleen, and I cannot pronounce your last name. Gwynmither. How does Reverend Michael feel about the definition of deity as a, quote, unified, infinite intelligence supported by pure love and which grows with pure love?
I can get with that. I can get with that. It reminds me of Plato talking about that about 5,000 years ago. Realizing that we lived in a fractal universe, and source, we leave source, we're fractalized, and then we have these experiences, and the source is experiencing itself through us, and we live our lives. Plato also believed in God, but he believed in the gods as well, and so we come back, sort of like what you were talking about, Dolly, and we come back with those experiences, and it's just all about this continuing cycle of growth,
Okay, I think we've got just about, well, here's one more, and then we'll touch on your books real quick, because we definitely want to do that. What do the ETs teach us about past lives and future lives? Are some beings trapping our souls when we die? I'm going to say a big no to that last part.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's true. I know I've heard people talk about that. What I've learned is that we do live again. Destroyed or created, it can only be transformed, and so the body will die, and that and that we continue to grow and evolve, and no matter how long it takes. For some people, it may be faster than others, but again, it's not a competition. And so I think there's some comfort in that our energy will continue to grow. The only thing I would say, in addition, as a caveat, is that I do believe in reincarnation, and it's been in the Bible. Some of it's been taken out, but not all of it. You know, but there's always the trap that you can spend so much time focusing on who you were before that you don't want to forget who you are now.
Right.
And you can look back in order to move forward, or you can look back and just kind of get stuck there. I think that's the lesson.
All right. Well, let's pop up some of your books here so you can say a few words about each one of these.
That was my first book.
It's called Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials, and the Holy Bible.
The Holy Bible. It was my master's thesis. And I at this time, and I'm very grateful to Union, because they could have said, you're not going to graduate from this seminary writing that. But they encouraged me, and some of my professors encouraged me to stay on for a PhD. But I did not want to be 67 years old still paying off school loans. But that's my first book. Yes.
Okay.
All right. And then we move on to this
one. Was part 2 of that.
Okay.
I go into the Protestants and the Catholics who were talking about extraterrestrials. Some of them lost their lives because of it. And I talk about that this is about the evolution of our consciousness, and not just, you know, back engineering and Bible in that book as well. It's my favorite, one of my favorites, because of the cover.
Yeah, I love the cover. And for those who can see it, it's called A New World If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness. And it shows, that's Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Floating and levitating, which he did. And there's UFOs around him.
Surrounding him, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. It's a lovely cover. I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Here's another book called...
this is called...
Read the title.
It's called The Metaphysics of Spiritual Healing and the Power of Affirmative Prayer. There was a time that I didn't want to be known as the UFO minister. So I said, you know, I have other interests, so let me write about this. And it's basically about healing, obviously, but praying as if you've already had what you desire, instead of using the source as a Santa Claus. God, can I please have this? God, can I please have that?
Exactly.
That praying is affirming that I know my needs are going to be met. I know they already are met. The power of gratitude in that. And that just like when I turn the light off, after this is over, I know the light will turn off. Well, you can get to that point where you say your prayer and you know that whatever your desire is, it will happen.
Very cool.
So that's what that book's about.
Great. I'm so proud of you, Michael, for putting all these out.
That's thank you, Preston.
All right.
Now I should have put God in parentheses here, because I'm not talking about the God as the Santa Claus, but this is a meditation manual, and I use it's a lesson for every day, and I use the wisdom from atheists, from Catholics, from Buddhists, from Hindus. It's a lesson every day. It's a 30-day meditation manual, and you can use it for each month.
That's awesome.
Awesome. This one is called God Consciousness, a 30-day journey to achieve God-centered thinking, which is awesome, because people do need to remember we are an integral part of this universe, and what a gift.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so God is very different than what... this is my latest book. It's called Enlightenment. It just came out in December, and it's a collection of sermons on social justice, philosophy, religion, race, the cosmos. And I love Thich Nhat Hanh. A wave realizes it's part of the ocean, when we realize the illusion of separation,
right, and
that we're all connected. That's enlightenment.
I love that you wrote this book. One of the first things that I had to learn from ET was this. Okay, and it wasn't given to me as sermons, but it is the idea of it. How you're presenting it is exactly awesome, because it teaches you spirituality in an operative form. You know, it teaches you why and how. And I bet yours does too. I mean, I'm just getting that feeling off it. This is cool. I'm going to read this book. I want this book.
Enlightenment. I love how the word light is in light too.
Yeah.
Clever.
And I mean, it's in hardcover, it's in it's Kindle, and it's in softcover.
It's beautiful.
All right. I think
Thank
we have
you.
one more here.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. This is a book for experiencers or for family or people who have friends that are experiencers. It's also for people who think they may be but are not sure. And so I know we're running out of time. They're chapters. The initiation begins. Indicators to let you know. The separation, the teachers and mentors. Listen, you will love it. It's a handbook. Call me. We can talk about it. It's all these books are on Amazon, but this is one of my favorites.
Very cool. Yeah. For those who can't see it, it's called Initiation. And here's Michael.
Oh, yes. That's in New York.
Here's out of church. Just a couple of pictures I thought I'd flash by
that's
real
in
quick.
Michigan.
I love your little alien sitting in the front.
Feeding the goats. Gotta feed the animals. Love that one. We already showed that one. So
yes.
And this one real quick.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
everyone. Now listen carefully. Here's Jesus speaking.
Yes.
I don't want to end up with 4 different versions of this.
Right.
Which
and we wind up with 4 more.
It happened. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to flash that one.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. This was an awesome show.
Yes.
We had another 2 hours.
Listen, I know we got to go. I'd love to come back. We could talk about the Bible.
Yes, I want you to come back because it's lots to unpack. You have lots more to unpack.
Yeah, we can talk about a lot of stuff.
Very much.
Blessings to all of you. Thank you again, Preston, for being there when I needed you. And thank you guys for listening in. Dolly, it's a pleasure to meet you. And let's try to do something in the next few weeks or months.
Okay, when we do end the show, because we're going to firm a date. Okay, that's what I like. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Light Gate on this beautiful Monday. I want you to stay warm if you're in an area that's freezing right now. I want you to stay cool if you're hot. I want you to be happy, joyful, and share your love with everybody. Namaste. You are listening to the Light Gate from the beautiful city of New Orleans in the beautiful state of Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We wish you well, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, guys.